What happens when a struggling single father offers shelter to a mysterious drenched girl on a stormy night, not knowing she is actually a runaway billionaire heiress who has never worked a day in her life? Jack had no idea that his simple act of kindness would change both their lives forever when Emma walked into his humble home soaking wet and desperate, but too proud to admit she needed help. Watch as this wealthy girl who once had everything learns the true meaning of hard work at a laundromat, while Jack, a man barely making ends meet, teaches her lessons money could never buy. Their journey from strangers to something deeper will make you believe in second chances and show you that sometimes the people with the least to give have the biggest hearts. Stay till the end because the transformation Emma goes through and the secret she is hiding will leave you absolutely speechless. Story. The rain was pouring down like sheets of ice on that cold November night, and Jack was walking home from his second job at the warehouse, his boots splashing through puddles on the cracked sidewalk. His back ached from lifting boxes for 10 hours straight, and all he wanted was to get home to his small apartment, check on his sleeping daughter through the babysitter, and maybe heat up some leftovers if there were any. The streetlights flickered overhead, casting long shadows across the empty streets of this forgotten neighborhood where dreams came to die and people just tried to survive one more day. That is when he saw her. A young woman, maybe in her early 20s, was sitting on the steps of an abandoned building, completely soaked from head to toe, her expensive-looking clothes now plastered against her skin. Her long, dark hair hung in wet strands across her face, and she was shivering violently, hugging herself as if trying to hold her own body together. Most people would have walked past her, assuming she was drunk or on drugs or just another casualty of the harsh city streets, but Jack was not most people. He stopped a few feet away from her and cleared his throat, trying to sound gentle and non-threatening. "Excuse me, miss. Are you okay?" The girl looked up at him, and even in the dim light he could see her eyes were red from crying, but there was something else there too, a fierce pride that had not been broken yet. She straightened her back, despite the shivering, and tried to sound strong. "I am fine, just waiting for someone." Jack looked around at the deserted street and then back at her. His instincts told him she was lying and that she was in trouble, but he did not want to push too hard. "It is pretty cold out here and you are soaked through. Do you have somewhere to go?" The girl hesitated, and Jack saw her jaw clench as if she was fighting with herself internally. Finally, she shook her head, just barely. No, that single word carried so much weight, so much pain and desperation that it made Jack's heart ache. He had been there before, not exactly in her situation, but he knew what it felt like to have nowhere to turn, to be at the absolute bottom with no safety net. "Look, I know you do not know me and you have no reason to trust me, but I cannot just leave you out here in the rain. My apartment is just 2 blocks away. It is not much, but it is warm and dry. You can get cleaned up, maybe have something hot to drink, and then figure out your next move. No strings attached. I promise." Emma stared at this stranger with suspicion written all over her face. She had learned the hard way that people always wanted something, that kindness always came with a price. Her father had taught her that everyone could be bought, that loyalty was just another transaction. But something about this man was different. He looked tired and worn down, like life had beaten him up pretty badly, but his eyes were kind, genuinely kind in a way she had rarely seen. "Why would you help me?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Jack shrugged. "Because someone helped me once when I needed it, and because I have a daughter about your age and I would hope someone would do the same for her if she ever needed it." That answer seemed to satisfy something in Emma, because after a long moment she slowly stood up, her legs shaky beneath her. Jack resisted the urge to reach out and steady her, sensing that she needed to maintain some sense of independence, even in this vulnerable moment. "Okay," she said quietly. "But just for tonight." Just for tonight. Jack agreed, though. Something told him this was going to be more complicated than a simple one-night shelter. They walked in silence through the rain, Jack leading the way, while Emma followed a few steps behind. He could feel her watching him, probably trying to figure out if she had made a terrible mistake. The neighborhood got worse before it got better. Buildings with broken windows and graffiti-covered walls, homeless people sleeping in doorways, and the distant sound of sirens. Jack was used to it. But he wondered what this girl who, despite her current state, clearly came from money based on her designer clothes was thinking. His apartment building was a 5-story walk-up with flickering fluorescent lights in the hallway, and the smell of cooking grease and mildew. Jack climbed to the 3rd floor, Emma following behind him, her wet shoes squeaking on the stairs. He unlocked his door and pushed it open, gesturing for her to enter first. "It is not much," he said apologetically, as he flipped on the light. Emma stepped inside and looked around. The apartment was tiny, maybe 600 square feet, with a small living room that doubled as Jack's bedroom, a kitchenette barely big enough for one person, a bathroom, and a single bedroom that clearly belonged to his daughter based on the pink door and the crayon drawings taped to it. Everything was old and worn, but it was clean, obsessively clean, and there were little touches that showed someone cared. A vase with fresh flowers, probably bought from the discount bin at the grocery store, photos of a young girl at various ages, smiling at the camera. A bookshelf made from cinder blocks and wooden planks filled with library books. The babysitter, Mrs. Chen from upstairs, was asleep on the couch. Jack gently woke her and paid her the $20 they had agreed upon. She glanced curiously at Emma but did not ask questions, and left quietly. Jack locked the door behind her and turned back to his unexpected guest. Emma was still standing in the same spot, dripping water onto his floor, looking completely out of place and utterly exhausted. "The bathroom is right there," Jack said, pointing. "You can take a hot shower, and I will find you some dry clothes. They will be too big, but at least they will be warm." Emma nodded and moved toward the bathroom, but paused at the doorway. "Thank you," she said without turning around. Jack just nodded, even though she could not see him. "You are welcome." While Emma was in the shower, Jack rummaged through his closet, finding an old flannel shirt and some sweatpants with a drawstring. He left them outside the bathroom door and went to the kitchen to make tea. He only had cheap tea bags, but it would be hot, and that was what mattered. He could hear the shower running, and found himself wondering about this girl. Who was she? Where did she come from? What had happened to make her end up on the streets on a night like this? When Emma emerged from the bathroom 20 minutes later, she looked completely different. Her long hair was damp but clean, hanging loose around her shoulders, and the oversized clothes made her look younger, more vulnerable. She had scrubbed her face clean of makeup, revealing smooth skin and large hazel eyes that watched Jack carefully as, if still trying to figure him out. Jack handed her a mug of hot tea and gestured to the couch. "Sit, please. You must be exhausted." Emma took the tea, gratefully wrapping both hands around the warm mug, and sank onto the couch. She took a sip, and then another, and Jack saw some of the tension start to leave her shoulders. "I made up the couch for you." Jack said, "I will sleep in the chair. It is comfortable enough. You do not have to do that." Emma protested weakly. "I insist." Jack said firmly, "Besides, I fall asleep in that chair watching TV all the time anyway." They sat in awkward silence for a few minutes, the only sound being the rain still beating against the windows. Finally, Emma spoke. "My name is Emma." Jack smiled. "Nice to meet you, Emma." "I am Jack." She nodded. "I know I heard the babysitter call you that." More silence. Emma seemed to be struggling with something, wrestling with whether to say more or keep her secrets. Jack did not push. He had learned that people would talk when they were ready. "I ran away," Emma finally said, her voice so quiet Jack had to lean forward to hear her. "From my family?" Jack nodded slowly. "Do they know where you are?" She shook her head. "No, and I want to keep it that way. They are probably looking for me, though. My father does not like losing things he considers his property." There was so much bitterness in those words, so much pain. Jack wanted to ask more, but he held back. "You do not have to tell me anything. You do not want to," he said. "But you are safe here tonight. Nobody is going to hurt you." Emma looked at him, and for the first time since he had found her on those steps, a genuine smile crossed her face. It was small and sad, but it was real. "You really mean that?" "Do you not?" she said wonderingly. "You actually just want to help me without wanting anything in return?" Jack shrugged again. "I told you someone helped me once. When my wife died 3 years ago, I was a mess. I had a 2-year-old daughter and no idea how to take care of her. I was drinking too much, missing, work drowning. My neighbor, Mrs. Patterson, took care of Sarah for weeks until I got my head together. She did not ask for anything, did not judge me, just helped. I have been trying to pay that forward ever since. Emma's eyes filled with tears. I am sorry. About your wife. Thank you, Jack said quietly. It gets easier with time, but you never really stop missing them. They talked a little more, Emma carefully avoiding any details about her family or her life before tonight. Jack told her about Sarah, about his jobs at the warehouse and the convenience store, about how hard it was to make ends meet, but how he would not trade being a father for anything. Emma listened, really listened, in a way that made Jack think she had not had many people really talk to her honestly, before eventually Emma's eyes started to droop and Jack insisted she get some sleep. He made sure she had an extra blanket, showed her where everything was in case she needed it during the night, and then settled into his armchair with a thin blanket of his own. In the darkness, Jack lay awake for a long time, thinking about the strange turn his evening had taken. He wondered if Emma would still be there in the morning, or if she would slip away before dawn, taking her secrets with her. Either way, he was glad he had stopped. He was glad he had offered help, even if it complicated his already complicated life. Emma lay on the couch, staring at the ceiling, listening to Jack's breathing slow and deepen as he fell asleep. She could not remember the last time someone had been kind to her without an agenda. Her father's world was full of people who smiled and nodded and did whatever he wanted, because he was Richard Ashford, billionaire real estate mogul and one of the most powerful men in the country. Emma had grown up in a mansion with servants and drivers and everything money could buy, but she had never felt more trapped. 2 days ago, she had finally had enough. Her father had arranged another marriage, another business deal disguised as love, this time to the son of a senator. He did not ask her. He never asked her. He just informed her that the wedding would be in 3 months and that she should start preparing. Emma had smiled and nodded like always, but inside something had snapped. She had waited until everyone was asleep, taken nothing but the clothes on her back and some cash she had hidden away, and walked out. She had been wandering the city for 2 days, sleeping in hotels under a fake name until her money ran out. She had been trying to figure out her next move when the rain started, and she had found herself on those steps, cold, wet, and for the first time in her privileged life, completely lost. And then Jack had appeared. This tired, ordinary man who worked 2 jobs to support his daughter, who lived in a tiny apartment and probably struggled to pay his bills every month. And he had offered her shelter, had given her his own clothes, had made her tea, and asked for nothing in return. Emma did not understand people like Jack because she had never met people like Jack. Everyone in her world wanted something: power, money, status, connections. As she finally drifted off to sleep, Emma made a decision. She could not go back. She would not go back. But she also could not keep running without a plan. Tomorrow she would start figuring out how to build a real life on her own terms, even if she had no idea where to start. When Jack woke up the next morning, Sarah was already awake, singing to herself in her bedroom. Emma was still asleep on the couch, curled up under the blanket. Jack quietly made breakfast for Sarah, getting her ready for daycare. The little girl was curious about the stranger on their couch, but Jack just told her a friend needed help and left. At that, Emma woke up to the sound of a child's laughter. She opened her eyes, confused for a moment about where she was, until the memories of last night came flooding back. She sat up and saw Jack in the kitchen area, with a little girl who looked about 3 or 4 with dark curly hair and her father's kind eyes. "Good morning," Jack said when he noticed she was awake. "I hope Sarah did not wake you." "No, I needed to get up anyway," Emma said, her voice still rough from sleep. She watched as Jack helped his daughter into her coat, his movements practiced and gentle. The way he talked to her, the patience and love evident in every word, made Emma's chest ache. She could not remember her own father ever being that way with her. "I have to drop Sarah at daycare and then head to work," Jack said. "Do you have any plans?" Emma hesitated. "I need to find a job. Any job. I have some money saved, but not much, and I need to start earning." Jack studied her for a moment, and Emma could see him thinking. "Do you have any experience?" "Not really," Emma admitted. "I have never actually worked before." She expected judgment, but Jack just nodded. "Okay. Well, the laundromat down the street has had a help. Wanted sign up for weeks. The owner, Mr. Kim, is a good guy. The pay is not great, but he is fair and it is honest work. If you are interested, Emma felt a flutter of panic. She had no idea how to work at a laundromat, had never done her own laundry in her life, but she needed money and she needed to start somewhere. Okay, she said, trying to sound more confident than she felt. Can you tell me where it is? Jack gave her directions and then offered her some breakfast before he left. Emma accepted, grateful for the food and the continued kindness. After Jack and Sarah left, Emma cleaned up the apartment, making the couch neat and washing the dishes in the sink. It was strange doing these simple tasks herself, but also oddly satisfying. She left Jack's apartment mid-morning and walked to the laundromat. The neighborhood looked different in daylight, less threatening but still worn down and tired. The laundromat was wedged between a pawn shop and a bodega with a faded sign that read, Kim's Laundry Service. Emma took a deep breath and walked inside. The place was hot and steamy, filled with the sound of washing machines churning and dryers tumbling. A few customers were folding clothes at the long tables in the center. An older Korean man was behind the counter sorting through a pile of tickets. "Excuse me, Emma," said, approaching the counter. "Are you Mr. Kim?" The man looked up at her suspiciously. "Yes, who is asking? My name is Emma. I heard you might be hiring. I am looking for work." Mr. Kim looked her up and down, clearly skeptical. "You ever worked in a laundromat?" "Before, no, sir. But I am a fast learner and I really need the job." He grunted. "You do not look like you need a job. You look like you never worked a day in your life." Emma felt her face flush with embarrassment and anger, but she forced herself to stay calm. "You are right. I have not. But I want to learn. I need to learn. Please give me a chance." Something in her voice must have convinced him, because after a long moment, Mr. Kim sighed. "Fine. You can start today. Minimum wage cash at the end of each week. Show up late or mess up too many times and you are gone. Understand?" "Yes, sir," Emma said, relief flooding through her. "Thank you." Mr. Kim just grunted again and waved her to follow him. He spent the next hour showing her the basics: how to sort laundry by color and fabric, how to measure detergent, how to operate the industrial machines, how to fold properly, how to deal with customers. Emma tried to absorb everything, her head spinning with information. She had never realized how much went into something as simple as washing clothes. Her first day was brutal. The work was physically demanding, constantly lifting heavy wet laundry, moving baskets, bending over machines. The heat from the dryers was suffocating, making her sweat through Jack's borrowed clothes. The customers were often impatient or rude, treating her like she was invisible or worse, like she was stupid when she made mistakes. By the time Mr. Kim told her she could leave, Emma was exhausted in a way she had never experienced. Her back hurt, her feet ached. Her hands were red and chapped from the hot water and chemicals. But she had earned $60 cash money that she had actually worked for. She walked back to Jack's apartment as the sun was setting, not sure if she should even go there. She did not want to impose, but she had nowhere else to go. When she knocked on the door, Jack answered with Sarah on his hip. "Emma," he said, smiling. "Come in. How did it go?" "It was hard," Emma admitted, stepping inside. "Really hard. But I did it. Mr. Kim said I could come back tomorrow." Jack's smile widened. "I am proud of you. I know that is not easy work." Those simple words hit Emma harder than she expected. Nobody had ever told her they were proud of her. Her father praised her when she looked pretty or said the right thing at a dinner party, but never for actually accomplishing something through her own effort. "Thank you," she whispered. "Listen," Jack said. "I know this is sudden and you do not really know me, but if you need a place to stay, while you get on your feet, you can crash here for a while. The couch is not comfortable, but it is better than the streets. I do not expect anything from you, just maybe help out with some groceries. When you can." Emma felt tears threatening again. "Why are you being so nice to me?" Jack shrugged, setting Sarah down to play. "Because everyone deserves a chance. Because I have been down and I know how hard it is to get back up. And honestly, because I look at you and I see someone who is trying really hard to do something difficult, and that deserves respect." Emma nodded, unable to speak around the lump in her throat. She had never felt so grateful and so undeserving at the same time. Over the next few weeks, Emma settled into a routine. She worked at the laundromat 6 days a week, arriving early and staying late, trying to prove herself to Mr. Kim. She came home to Jack's apartment where she would help with dinner and play with Sarah. She saved every penny she could, stashing the cash in an envelope she kept hidden in her bag. The work remained hard. Emma had blisters on her hands that turned to calluses. She learned how to deal with difficult customers, how to get out impossible stains, how to fix a jammed washing machine. Mr. Kim was tough but fair, and Emma found herself actually enjoying the simple satisfaction of doing a job well. It was so different from her old life where everything was handed to her, where accomplishment meant nothing because there was no effort required. Jack continued to be unfailingly kind, never asking questions about her past, never making her feel like she owed him anything. He worked constantly between his 2 jobs and taking care of Sarah, but he always made time to talk to Emma, to ask about her day, to share meals with her. Emma found herself looking forward to those evening conversations more than she wanted to admit. She was learning so much, not just about work, but about life. Jack taught her how to budget money, how to cook simple meals, how to fix things instead of replacing them, how to find joy in small moments. Sarah taught her how to play, how to be silly, how to see wonder in ordinary things. Together, they were teaching her what it meant to be part of a family. Not the cold, transactional relationship she had with her father, but real warmth and connection. One evening, about a month after Emma had arrived, she and Jack were sitting on the couch after Sarah had gone to bed. The TV was on low, playing some sitcom. Neither of them was really watching. "Can I ask you something?" Jack said quietly. Emma tensed but nodded. "Sure, you do not have to answer if you do not want to. But what are you running from?" Emma was quiet for a long time. She had known this question would come eventually. She owed Jack honesty after everything he had done for her. "My father," she finally said. "He is Richard Ashford." Jack's eyes widened. "I know that name. He is one of the richest men in the country." Emma nodded. "He is also controlling, manipulative, and sees me as property, not a person. He arranged a marriage for me to someone I barely knew, did not ask, just told me it was happening. I could not do it anymore, could not be the perfect, obedient daughter he wanted. So I left." "Does he know where you are?" Jack asked. "I do not think so," Emma said. "But he is looking, I am sure of it. He has resources, people who can find anyone. But I am not going back. I would rather work at a laundromat for the rest of my life than go back to that cage." Jack was quiet for a moment, processing. Then he looked at her and smiled slightly. "For what it is worth, I think you made the right choice. Money does not mean anything if you are not free." Emma felt something shift in her chest, a warmth that spread through her. "You really believe that I do?" Jack said. "I know it might sound hollow coming from someone who struggles to pay rent, but I have watched you these past few weeks. You are different now. You smile more. You actually laugh. When you first got here, you looked like you had never really lived before, and now you are coming alive. It is amazing to watch." Emma felt tears sliding down her cheeks. Nobody had ever seen her the way Jack did. Nobody had ever valued her for who she was, rather than what she represented. "Thank you," she whispered, "for everything. For seeing me." Jack reached out and gently squeezed her hand. "You are easy to see, Emma. You just needed to be in a place where people were actually looking." That night marked a turning point in their relationship. The walls Emma had built around herself started to come down. She talked more, opened up about her life, about the loneliness of growing up with everything except what she really needed, about her mother, who had died when Emma was young, about the pressure and expectations that had crushed her spirit. Jack shared, too, about his wife Maria, about how they had met in high school and been inseparable, about how her death from cancer had destroyed him, about the long climb back to being a functional human being, about the guilt he still carried for not being enough, for falling apart when Sarah needed him most. They understood each other in a way that transcended their different backgrounds. They had both lost things, both been broken, both had to rebuild themselves from nothing. And in that shared experience, they found connection. Emma also grew closer to Sarah. The little girl who had been shy around her at first now ran to Emma when she came home from work, demanding stories and games and attention. Emma, who had never spent much time around children, found herself enchanted by Sarah's pure joy and unconditional affection. She learned how to braid hair, how to bandage scraped knees, how to read bedtime stories with all the right voices. One Saturday, Mr. Kim asked Emma to work a double shift because his usual weekend employee called in sick. Emma agreed even though she was exhausted. She worked from 6 in the morning until 10 at night, dealing with an endless stream of laundry and customers. When she finally dragged herself back to Jack's apartment, she found him waiting up for her. "You okay?" he asked, concern evident in his voice. "Just tired," Emma said, collapsing onto the couch. "I did not realize how much I took for granted. Before having other people do everything for you really shields you from understanding how hard life actually is." Jack sat down beside her. "You have come a long way. You should be proud." "I am," Emma said. "And it feels so different to be proud of something I actually earned rather than something I was just born into." They sat in comfortable silence for a while, and then Emma felt Jack's hand find hers. She looked up at him and saw something in his eyes that made her heart skip a beat. "Emma," he said softly, "I know this is complicated, and the last thing I want to do is take advantage of the situation, but I need to be honest with you. I have feelings for you. Real feelings." Emma's breath caught. "I do too," she whispered. "I have been trying not to, because everything is already so messy, and I do not want to ruin what we have. But Jack, I think about you all the time. Can we just see where this goes?" Jack asked. "No pressure, no expectations, just see what happens." Emma nodded, and then before she could overthink it, she leaned in and kissed him. It was soft and sweet, and felt more right than anything in Emma's entire life. Jack's hand came up to cup her face, and Emma felt tears sliding down her cheeks again, but this time they were happy. Tears. They took things slowly, both aware of how fragile their situation was. They did not want to rush or to let the intensity of their circumstances push them into something they were not ready for. But the connection between them deepened. Emma found herself falling for Jack in a way she had never fallen for anyone before. He was steady and kind and real in a world that had always felt false and performative. Emma had been living with Jack for almost 3 months when everything changed. She was at work on a Wednesday afternoon folding towels when she looked up and saw a man in an expensive suit standing at the entrance of the laundromat. He was looking around with obvious distaste, and when his eyes landed on Emma, they narrowed. Her heart stopped. It was Marcus, her father's head of security. "She had been found, Emma," she said, Marcus approaching her. "We have been looking everywhere for you. Your father is very concerned." Emma's hands were shaking, but she tried to keep her voice steady. "I am not going back, Marcus. That is not your decision to make." Marcus said quietly, "Your father wants you home." Emma looked around. The few customers in the laundromat were watching curiously. Mr. Kim was behind the counter, frowning. She could not make a scene here, could not risk her job or bring trouble to the people who had helped her. "Let me finish my shift," Emma said. "At least let me do that." Marcus nodded. "Fine, I will wait." The next 4 hours were torture. Emma mechanically went through the motions of her work, her mind racing. She had known this moment would come eventually, but she had hoped for more time. She thought about running, but Marcus would just follow her. She thought about calling Jack, but what could he do against her father's power and money? When her shift ended, Mr. Kim pulled her aside. "You in trouble?" he asked. "Maybe," Emma admitted, "but I will handle it." "Thank you, Mr. Kim, for everything, for giving me a chance." The old man's face softened. "You are a good worker, Emma. Good luck." Emma changed out of her work clothes and walked outside where Marcus was waiting beside a black SUV. "Where are we going?" Emma asked. "Your father wants to see you," Marcus said. "He is at the Riverside Hotel downtown." Emma got into the car, feeling numb. The drive through the city felt surreal. She had been gone for months, had built a whole new, life, and now she was being pulled back into the world she had escaped. The hotel was one of the most expensive in the city, of course. Marble floors, crystal chandeliers, doormen in uniforms, everything a stark contrast to the laundromat in Jack's tiny apartment. Marcus led her to a penthouse suite and knocked once before opening the door. Richard Ashford was standing by the window looking out over the city. He turned when they entered, and Emma saw the anger flash across his face before he controlled it. "Emma," he said, his voice cold. "Leave us." Marcus left, closing the door behind him. Emma stood in the middle of the enormous room, feeling small and young and scared, despite everything she had learned about herself over the past few months. "Do you have any idea what you put me through?" Richard said. "What this has cost me. The embarrassment of having to explain to Senator Morrison why the wedding was postponed. The resources I have expended looking for you." Emma found her voice. "I did not ask you to look for me. I left because I do not want to be part of your world anymore." Richard laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You do not want to be part of my world. Look at you, Emma. You are filthy. You are wearing cheap clothes. You have been working at a laundromat of all places. You think that is a real life. That is poverty. That is failure." "No," Emma said, her voice getting stronger. "That is freedom. That is earning my own way. That is having people care about me for who I am, not what I can do for them." Richard shook his head. "You are confused. You have been living in squalor and you have romanticized it, but that is not sustainable, Emma. You will come to your senses." "I am not going back," Emma said. "I am an adult. You cannot force me." Richard smiled, and it was a cold, calculating smile. "No, I cannot force you, but I can make life very difficult for the people you have been staying with. This Jack Reeves and his daughter Sarah. It would be a shame if he lost his jobs, if Child Services received anonymous reports about his parenting, if his landlord suddenly decided to evict him." Emma felt ice run through her veins. "You would not. I would do whatever it takes to protect you," Richard said, "even from yourself. Come home, Emma, resume your life, and your friend Jack will never know I was here. Refuse and I will destroy him." Emma felt trapped all over again. She could see in her father's eyes that he meant every word. He had the power and the connections to ruin Jack's life, and he would do it without hesitation. All her growth, all her newfound independence meant nothing in the face of this. "I need time," Emma said, her voice shaking. "Time to think. You have until tomorrow." Richard said, "I am giving you 24 hours to say your goodbyes. Then you will come home and we will never speak of this ridiculous episode again." Emma left the hotel in a daze. Marcus drove her back to Jack's neighborhood and let her out at the corner. She walked slowly, trying to figure out what to do. She could not let her father destroy Jack, could not let Sarah suffer because of her, but the thought of going back to that life made her feel like she was suffocating. When she got to the apartment, Jack took one look at her face and knew something was wrong. "What happened?" he asked. Emma told him everything, about Marcus, about her father, about the threats. Jack listened, his face growing darker. "We will fight this," he said when she finished. "We will get a lawyer. We will." "Jack," Emma interrupted. "We both know your jobs are not protected. You work at will. They can fire you for any reason. Your landlord does not need a cause to evict you. And Child Services, even an investigation could traumatize Sarah. My father has unlimited resources and connections. He will win. So, what are you saying?" Jack asked, his voice hollow. "I am saying I have to go back," Emma said, tears streaming down her face. "I cannot let him hurt you. I cannot let Sarah suffer because of me." "You are giving up," Jack said. "Everything you have built, everything you have become. You are just going to throw it away." "I do not have a choice," Emma cried. "We always have a choice," Jack said. "But I understand. I do not like it, but I understand." They held each other for a long time, both crying. Emma had never felt pain like this, the agony of choosing between her own freedom and protecting the people she loved. In the end, there was no real choice. She could be strong, She could be independent, but not at the cost of Jack and Sarah's well-being. Emma spent that last night memorizing every detail of the apartment, of Jack's face, of Sarah's sleepy smile when she kissed her goodnight. She wanted to hold on to these memories to remember what real love and real family felt like in the morning Marcus came for her. Jack stood at the door holding Sarah, his face a mask of controlled emotion. "I love you." Emma said the words simple and true. "I love you too." Jack said, "And you are strong enough to survive this. You are not the same person who ran away. You know your worth now. Nobody can take that from you. Not even your father." Emma nodded, unable to speak. She kissed Sarah one more time and then walked out the door. She did not look back because she knew if she did, she would not be able to leave. Richard was waiting at the hotel. When Emma arrived, he smiled his victory complete. "You made the right choice," he said. "No," Emma said, "I made the only choice you gave me, but you did not win, Father. You can control where I live. You can control who I marry. You can control every aspect of my external life. But you cannot control who I am inside. I know now what real kindness looks like, what real work feels like, what real love feels like, and nothing you do can take that away from me." Richard's smile faded. "You will forget him in time." "Maybe," Emma said, "but I will never forget what he taught me." Over the following weeks, Emma was absorbed back into her father's world. The wedding was rescheduled. Emma went through the motions, attending fittings and planning meetings like a robot. She smiled when she was supposed to. She said the right things, but inside she was somewhere else. She thought about Jack, constantly wondered how he was, if Sarah missed her, if he ever thought about her. She wanted to reach out, but she knew her father was monitoring everything and she could not risk bringing more trouble to them. So she stayed silent and suffered. But Emma was different now. She had tasted freedom, had experienced what it meant to earn respect through work, to be valued for herself. She could not go back to being the compliant daughter, no matter how much her father wanted it. She started small, asking questions about the family business, about the wedding arrangements, about her own future. At first, Richard dismissed her, but Emma persisted. She also started planning. She could not escape again the same way her father would be watching too closely, but there were other ways. She began researching lawyers, ones who specialized in trusts and estates. She quietly gathered documentation about her mother's estate, which she would inherit outright when she turned 25, just 6 months away. Her father had always controlled it, claiming he was managing it for her benefit. But Emma was starting to suspect there was more to it. One evening at a dinner party, Emma met an older woman named Catherine Wells, who was a prominent attorney. Catherine was sharp and no-nonsense, and when Emma carefully asked a few questions about inheritance law, Catherine gave her a card. "Call me if you ever need help," she said quietly. "And make sure you use a phone your father does not know about." Emma took the card and hid it carefully. She knew she was being watched, but she also knew her father underestimated her. He thought his threats had broken her spirit, thought she would fall back in line like always. He did not understand that she had been fundamentally changed by her time away. She also learned something interesting about her arranged marriage. The senator's son, Brandon Morrison, was as unhappy about the arrangement as she was. When they were alone for a moment at another event, Emma carefully broached the subject. "You do not want this either, do you?" she asked. Brandon looked surprised by her directness and then relieved. "God, no," he said. "My father is forcing me into this just like yours is forcing you. Maybe we can help each other," Emma said. "What if we both walked away?" Brandon looked tempted but then shook his head. "My father would cut me off completely. I do not have anywhere else to go." Emma understood. She had been exactly where he was before Jack showed her another way. Before she learned that freedom was worth more than money. The date of Emma's 25th birthday approached, and she prepared carefully. She hired Catherine Wells, secretly meeting with her at coffee shops and park benches. Catherine helped her understand her rights to her mother's estate and began the legal process of wresting control from Richard. It would not be easy. Richard had powerful lawyers, but Catherine was better on Emma's birthday, she woke up knowing that today everything would change. She went through the morning pretending nothing was different, attending the elaborate party her father had planned. But as the guests were arriving, Emma excused herself and made a phone call to Catherine. "Do it," she said. Within the hour, Richard received notice that Emma was taking legal control of her inheritance and that his management of the trust was being challenged. The party ground to a halt as Richard read the documents, his face growing redder and redder. "What have you done?" he hissed at Emma, pulling her aside. "What I should have done a long time ago," Emma said calmly. "I am taking control of what is rightfully mine. And once I have access to my mother's money, I am leaving again. And this time you cannot threaten anyone to get me back." "You will regret this," Richard said. "No," Emma said. "I finally stopped regretting things. The only thing I regret is not doing this sooner." The legal battle was intense. Richard tried everything to maintain control, but Catherine was relentless, and the law was on Emma's side. After 2 months of fighting, Emma won. She inherited her mother's estate, $30 million, and the freedom to live her own life. The first thing Emma did was break off the engagement to Brandon. He was relieved, and they parted as friends, both finally free from their father's manipulations. The second thing she did was leave her father's house for good, taking only her personal belongings and never looking back. And the third thing she did was go back to the neighborhood where Jack lived. It was early evening when Emma knocked on the door of Jack's apartment. Her heart was pounding. She had no idea if he would even want to see her after she had left. It had been almost 5 months, and he might have moved on, might be angry, might not forgive her. The door opened, and there was Jack. He looked tired, but when he saw her, his eyes widened in shock. "Emma," he breathed. "Hi." Emma said, her voice shaking. "I know. I have been gone a long time.